Hello, this is Rob from Vovo Bricks. That's veteran-owned, veteran-operated. Very special video today. I'm very excited about this. This is something that I've wanted to try as part of my Bricklink store and my Bricklink channel. This is something that I received in the mail today. From the Medal of Honor Society. As you can see, it just looks like a normal 2x6 brick. I think it's light gray in color. I'm not exactly sure the coloring schemes yet. I'm going to go with light bluish gray or maybe just gray. But I had reached out to them and I had told them exactly what I'm doing and trying to support the veteran community and raise awareness of veteran suicide rate and suicide prevention and awareness. And they sent me this brick, partially inspired by Whittlesey and his YouTube channel and his wall that his viewers send him bricks and he builds a wall. I wanted to do something very, very similar, only I wanted to use the Lego that I received from my patrons to further honor the vets. So when this brick was sent to me by the Medal of Honor Society, it came as a great surprise because it has a name on it. And I thought that that was a terrific way to start this project. Not terrific in the sense that, you know, this person lost their life, due to suicide. But that they'll always be remembered. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about this person. It's Charles Whittlesey. He was a major in World War I. And I'm just going to read a little bit more about him so that you can get a full sense of who he is, and hopefully we can do him a little bit of justice and get this particular section of the channel off in the right direction. So here we go. It is again impressed upon every officer and men of this command that group once captured must under no circumstances be given up in the absence of direct, positive, and formal orders to do so, emanating from these headquarters. Troops occupying ground must be supported against counterattack, and all gains held. It is a favorite trick of the Germans to spread confusion by calling out retire or fall back. If in any action any such command is heard, officers and men may be sure that it is given by the enemy. Whoever gives such a command is a traitor, and it is the duty of the officer or man who is loyal to his country, and you hear such an order given, to shoot the offender upon the spot. We are not going back, but forward. So came the orders of Major General Robert Alexander, September 26th, 1918, Meuse-Argonne Offensive, World War I. A few days later, on October 1st, 1918, Major Charles Whittlesey was given his orders. He was to advance north on the Argonne Ravine, go across a brook, and take Charlevaux Mill. The purpose was to get control of this mill, from which a nearby road and rail line could be controlled. Once they had that task completed, they were to push on to Hill 198 to complete a flanking maneuver on the enemy. This assault started on October 2nd. The men woke up, ate breakfast, and commenced fighting. By the evening of October 2nd, Major Whittlesey had received reports that his men had found a way up the hill. So they attacked, gained control of the hill with the men of the 307th and 308th Infantry Regiments of the 154th Infantry Brigade, the 77th Infantry Division. Once they got control of this hill, they didn't receive any communication from the French unit that was supposed to be protecting his left flank, and no communication from his American unit that was supposed to be protecting his right flank. It's World War I. There are no radios. The flanks had collapsed. He didn't know this, but the Germans had taken the ground. Whittlesey and his men dug in, created a defensive position on that hill, which became known as the Pocket. At about 22:30 that night, Whittlesey realized the Germans were on Hill 205, and they were in the ravine off his right. The morning of October 3rd, Whittlesey sent out runners to his flanks to establish communications and to find out where the French and American units were. In the absence of radios, runners or carrier pigeons were sent. He sent out runners to his left and right flank, and none of them came back. He sends a carrier pigeon with various messages about their position and situations. He receives no communication back. He comes to the realization that they must be completely surrounded. And on the afternoon of October 3rd, the Germans attacked from all sides. One of the American company commanders, Captain Halderman, led a breakout to try and connect with Allied forces. His company took massive casualties, and the breakout was stopped. So they're surrounded and stuck. And the Germans attacked with mortars to keep the heads down, and they got closer and attacked with grenades, and the Americans held. As evening approached, the Germans backed off, because while the Germans were assaulting, not only did they cause massive casualties, but they received massive casualties. On the morning of October 4th, Major Whittlesey worried no one knew what his situation was. There was massive casualties, and they began getting shelled by their own artillery. He has one last carrier pigeon. He launches it, and this last carrier pigeon arrives at headquarters. It's been shot through the breast, it's been blighted in one eye, and one leg hanging by a tendon. The message says, "We are along the road parallel to 276.4. Our own artillery is dropping a barrage directly on us. For heaven's sake, stop it." The artillery stops and the Germans attack again, and they are driven back once again, and again there are massive casualties on both sides, except the Americans are running low on ammunition. They don't have any food. The water source they had close by exposed them to German fire, and the fighting continues on the October 5th and 6th. Attack after attack, the dead and wounded pile up. And on 7 October, the Germans send a blindfolded American POW forward carrying a white flag. And he has a note with him. And the note is directed to the commanding officer of the Americans. And it says, "The suffering of your wounded men can be heard over here on the German lines. And we are appealing to your human sentiments to stop. A white flag shown by one of your men will tell us you agree to these conditions. Please treat Private Lowell R. Hollingshead, the bearer of this note, as an honorable man. He's quite a soldier. We envy you." Signed, the German commanding officer. Major Whittlesey allegedly replied, "You go to hell." So they hunkered down and they braced for more attacks. And that night, a relief force arrived and the Germans finally retreated. Of the 554 troops that originally attacked the hill, 190 were wounded, 63 were missing, and 107 were killed. Only 194 were able to walk out, and they became known as the Lost Battalion. There were 7 Medals of Honor awarded for this action, including one to Major Charles W. Whittlesey, who was immediately promoted to Lieutenant Colonel. The war ended only a few weeks later on November 11, 1918, and in America this became one of the most publicized events of the war. In 1919, the movie The Lost Battalion comes out. Whittlesey himself is in the movie as himself. It is a silent film, and you can see him try to reenact the events of the battle a year before, with the experience of war etched on his face. He tried to go back to a normal civilian life. He is out of the army. He is smart. He is educated. He has a law degree from Harvard. He has a private law practice prior to the war, but obviously things had changed. He was now a war hero, a famous movie star. There was a constant demand for him, and they threw him parades and requested interviews, and it was starting to wear on him. In November 1921, he served as a pallbearer at the burial of the unknown soldier at Arlington National Cemetery. A few days later, he booked passage on the British ship SS Toloa from New York to Havana. He set sail on November 26, 1921. That night, he had dinner. He chatted with some people. Around 11:30 that night, he left for his stateroom, and in the morning, the stewards knocked on his door to go into his cabin, and no one answered. So they went into his cabin so they could clean, and they found a note. The note said, "To the captain of the SSS Toloa, dear sir, my name is Charles W. Whittlesey, 14 Wall Street, New York City. I'm enclosing some money and my watch. Please give $10 to each of the deck stewards, room stewards, and the table steward. Deduct what is necessary for sending the enclosed wireless messages and send my balance to my executor, Mr. John B. Pruitt, 2 Rector Street, New York City. Please throw my suitcases and clothes overboard. I don't want anything returned, and I'm writing my father and making him aware that I am making this request of you. Here are the messages I would very much appreciate you sending." Just 1 second here. Lost my place. One, Frank R. Whittlesey, 38 Pomeroy Avenue, Pittsfield, Massachusetts. Your son Charles Whittlesey jumped overboard and was drowned yesterday. He left letters for you mailed from Havana notifying Pruitt and Elijah Whittlesey. 2. John B. Pruitt, 2 Rector Street, New York City. Charles Whittlesey jumped overboard and was drowned yesterday. He left a letter for you that will be mailed to you from Havana. And I am notifying his father, Frank Whittlesey, and his brother, Elijah Whittlesey. 3. Elijah Whittlesey, 136 East 44th Street, New York City. Your brother Charles Whittlesey jumped overboard and was drowned yesterday. He left a letter for you that will be mailed from Havana. I am notifying your father and John B. Pruitt. 4. Robert F. Little, 14 Wall Street, New York City. Look in the upper left-hand drawer of my desk for memorandums of law matters I was attending to. I shall not return. Will you so kindly mail these letters? I am leaving. I am very sorry to bother you with these unpleasant details. Signed, Charles W. Whittlesey. His body was never recovered, and they put a stone for him in the military cemetery in Pittsfield, Massachusetts that reads, "In memory of Charles W. Whittlesey, Lieutenant Colonel, U.S. Army, World War I, 1884 to 1921, Medal of Honor." A hero and a tragedy, and you cannot help but ask yourself, how does this happen? A story of heroism and camaraderie and courage. How does that turn into a story of despair and loneliness and loss of hope? What can we learn from that story? How can we learn to avoid that tragedy and move away from the darkness and move towards the light? It's a very compelling question. As you can see, Major Charles W. Whittlesey, later Lieutenant Colonel Charles W. Whittlesey, he had everything. He was a war hero. He was a movie star. He had all of this attention. He was famous, certainly. But that fame, it got to him and all those demands. And so he threw all of his stuff overboard and he jumped into the sea and was never found. They didn't have the resources back then that we have now. I wonder, if he had anybody that he could talk to, or if he felt comfortable, talking to his brother or his father or to his executor or Mr. Pruitt, or if there was just some friends from the service that he could talk to. Ultimately, he succumbed to his demons. But the fact is that his sacrifices can't be ignored. He was somebody's brother. He was somebody's son. He was somebody's friend. And now he's lost. But I'll remember him. I hope that you'll remember him. I hope that you'll tell other people about his story and his sacrifice. I hope that his story of battling demons might be something that you can relate to. And if you or somebody you know may be struggling with some of those same demons, or if you're having thoughts of hurting yourself or taking your own life, please get help. You see the number to the Veterans Crisis Line. They're amazing people over there, and they can point you in the right direction. Again, the first brick in my wall. Unfortunately, it won't be the last. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this content, please remember to like and subscribe. Bye for now.